What's going on YouTube? So in the auto industry, there are hundreds of nameplates that have come and gone over the last 60 years. Yet the Land Cruiser is not one of them. It has been sold continuously here in America for 6 decades. And now to celebrate, Toyota has made this special Heritage Edition. So with that all said, let's go ahead and see what makes this Land Cruiser so iconic. So let's start things off by taking a look here at the exterior of this Heritage Edition and see what makes it special. Now obviously most of it is going to be your typical Land Cruiser, but the main thing I noticed is that the grille has been updated. So you have some black accents inside of the grille. You also have a darkened chrome inside of the grille. Just gives it a little bit of a different look. And then off to the side here, you're going to find these same LED headlights. However, on the Heritage Edition, you have smoked lenses. And down here at the bottom, you have LED fog lights and a smoked chrome accent around it for the Heritage Edition. Now, obviously, these are just the cosmetic things. What you may really care about is your capabilities. And you'll be looking at 8.9 inches of ground clearance, as well as excellent approach and departure angles of 32 and 24 degrees respectively. Plus, right underneath there, you will find a skid plate. Now I've squatted down here with what I think is probably the most eye-catching change for the Heritage Edition, and that's these BBS forged alloy wheels finished in the bronze color, just like the other accents all around the vehicle. Really stands out. I mean, what type of vehicle has bronze colored wheels? Definitely a really cool look. As far as the actual size, it is 18 inches and you have all-terrain tires. Oh, and I did forget to mention right there in the middle of the wheel, you have the vintage Toyota badging. And then moving up to the mirrors, you have a special dark chrome accent for the Heritage Edition, but as far as the actual capability of the mirror, it has all the same features of the regular model. So you've got power folding, auto dimming, blind spot monitoring, and heating.
Now, other than the bronze wheels, here at the side is definitely where you're going to see the biggest differences for this Land Cruiser Heritage Edition, since it does have quite a few changes. Now, probably the biggest styling element that has changed is down here at the bottom. As you will notice, there are no running boards on the Heritage Edition model, and that also means that the chrome accenting down here has been deleted. Now, second most, you will also notice this gigantic Yamika Mega Warrior roof rack up here on this Heritage Edition. It is standard, and Toyota says this is for hauling cargo outside of the cabin. And lastly, we do also have Toyota Land Cruiser branding here, which gives it that vintage look, of course, with the Heritage Edition. And then as far as the rear is concerned, there really aren't very many changes back here. You do still have your standard partially LED taillights, and then off here at the bumper, we do have an exposed exhaust outlet. Now, even though this is a Heritage Edition Land Cruiser, certainly not vintage when it comes to the safety tech that Toyota has thrown in. That means you're going to have pre-collision braking with pedestrian detection, lane departure alert, auto high beam headlamps, and dynamic radar cruise control. Well guys, that sums up the distinct changes for this Land Cruiser Heritage Edition. So now let's go ahead and hop on the inside and see if Toyota has done anything in there.
So walking up to the Land Cruiser Heritage, of course, as you would expect, you do have a standard smart entry system, as well as a special key fob with Land Cruiser branding. And to get inside the vehicle itself, just grab the handle and it will unlock and unfold the mirrors. Alright, so taking a look inside of this cabin. As you can probably tell, we're looking at pretty much the same setup as the regular model, but there are some special touches throughout. Of course, just like the regular Land Cruiser, this is a very expensive SUV, so you have very nice interior materials, including full semi-aniline seating. It is finished in black leather only on the Heritage Edition with the special bronze color contrast stitching. And then all models also come with open pore walnut wood trim. Now turning over here to the door trim, you'll see those same materials reflected. So you have leather with the color contrast stitching and the open pore wood above that. You have standard 3-person memory seating, and of course all 4 of your windows are going to be one-touch automatic. As far as your seats, this is the 10-way power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar support. And like I already mentioned, this is standard semi-aniline leather. And it, just like every other vehicle with semi-aniline leather, it feels very soft and supple. Now, since the Heritage Edition has eliminated running boards, getting in is a little bit more challenging than the regular model. So you kind of have to jump up and grab this handle. So looking around the rest of the cabin, again, materials are very nice. So you have a soft touch plastic across your upper dashboard. Dropping down to the middle, you have a piece of the open pore walnut. And then again, you have a nice big piece of leather with the bronze color contrast stitching through there, and everything does feel really solid, as you would expect from a Land Cruiser that's expected to last forever. Alright, so here is your standard push button start. Now, like I said at the beginning, most of this cabin is the same as the regular model, so you're looking at the same gauge cluster with that nice, clean, and classic Land Cruiser look. You do have a 4.2-inch multi-function display right there in the middle, and you can cycle through all of the different systems just like that. And then coming back to the steering wheel, again, you have the same steering wheel. It is nicely leather wrapped. You do have the bronze stitching, as well as the walnut accents across the top and the bottom. Of course, the steering wheel itself is going to be power adjusting, and it is also heated. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about interior storage. Now, you're probably expecting to find a lot, and indeed you do. So we'll open up this area right here. Now, this is a small area, it's just kind of extra space, but you can stick your coupons in here if you fold them in half. However, the more exciting space is going to be right here. So you have this nice tray, you can actually remove this, and once inside of this you have an absolutely massive amount of space. Obviously it's going to swallow those up, no problem whatsoever. Now up in front of that we have our 2 cup holders under that cover. And then inside of this, you'll also find some more storage. Now, it doesn't look like there's anything in there, but this actually goes back quite deep. And this is a Qi wireless phone charging pad. And then right next to it, you also have a 12-volt outlet. Going back to the shifter, this is, of course, the traditional gated shifter. You can shift manually right here, but there is not going to be any paddle shifters. And then when you go into reverse, you're going to find a standard 360-degree camera system. Obviously, you have parking sensors as well as active trajectory. And then if you push the camera button off to the side when you're in drive, you can actually cycle through a few different views, including the side view. Just all these things are very handy for off-roading. And then right behind it, we have the traditional handbrake. Now, all around through here, this is kind of what makes the Land Cruiser special, and that is all your controls for the different capability. Now, I'm not going to go through what each one of these buttons does, but as you can see, it kind of looks like a space shuttle, and that's because it has so much capability. And in front of the shifter here, you have a USB and an aux jack. This is also where you'll find your automatic 3-stage heated and 3-stage ventilated seats for both the driver and passenger, as well as the heated steering wheel I already mentioned. And just like everything else in the cabin, of course, we have the upgraded 14-speaker JBL synthesis sound system as standard equipment. So let's go ahead and take a sample. Sound quality of this system is excellent. Alright, so moving on up the dashboard here, we have our climate controls. We actually have a standard 4-zone automatic climate control system here on the Land Cruiser. You can adjust the rear climate by pushing this button right here. And of course, everything else is pretty simple to use. One thing I will mention though is not all of your buttons are actually located here. To adjust some of the features, such as the fan speed, you will actually have to hit that button and make the adjustment up in the display. And speaking of the display, this is your 9-inch display. It does not run the latest version of Intune, however, so you do have an older version, so just be aware that you will not have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay on this version. You will, however, still get standard navigation. Now heading beyond that, we have a frameless auto-dimming mirror with 3 HomeLink universal remotes underneath of it. Up top here, we also have a standard size moonroof, of course, as standard equipment. And then one of the nice touches I like is this really nice and soft headliner that all the models have.
Now here at your Land Cruiser's rear seats, you are going to find a very luxurious rear seat area. So starting out with your features, here in the center we do have rear vents which are mounted here in the center as well as here on the ceiling. And in order to control those, you do actually have the 4-zone climate, so both rear passengers back here can adjust their own temperatures independently from one another. And then off to the side, we do also have standard 2-stage heated rear seats. And further below that, we do have a 12-volt power outlet. And then if we fold down the center armrest, it is nicely leather wrapped. We have a tiny little storage compartment. And then at the end, we do have pop-out cup holders. Now, as far as your space is concerned, it's going to come in at 34 inches of rear legroom and 39 inches of rear headroom, which isn't great for a big SUV like this, but this is certainly more off-road focused than just comfort focused. So as you can see, my thigh support is actually not great back here, and also, you know, behind your seating position, I only have about 4 or 5 inches of rear legroom. And another thing worth noting is that your feet can't slide up underneath the seat. So definitely not the most comfortable giant SUV that you can get, but this is obviously not focused at that. Now, if you're familiar with the Land Cruiser, you do realize that it has the 2-part opening tailgate. So in order to open it, just find the button under the lid. You do not have foot activation or anything like that. And then once this part opens, you can also open this bottom part by pulling on this little lever. And once you do that, you're going to notice the big difference for this Heritage Edition Land Cruiser, and that's that there is no 3rd row option. So that is one of the things that this Heritage Edition eliminates, is the 3rd row. So you're only going to have 2 different cargo capacities, 54 cubic feet behind the 2nd row seats, and if you expand it, it's going to go to 82 cubic feet. Now that is quite a bit of space. It is a little bit less than the Toyota Sequoia if that's something that you're cross-shopping this with. And as far as how Toyota finishes it back here, it is finished very nicely, just like any luxury vehicle. So you do have a household style outlet on the left side, and up underneath of the floor, you just have a nice carpeting. However, there is actually no storage up underneath of the floor. Now over here at your passenger seat, of course, it is going to be power adjusting. And in front, we do have a good sized glove box. It is dampened, however, it is not felt lined. And there is, of course, plenty of space to put your Burger King coupons in case you need to pay for that car payment on this Land Cruiser. And up top, we do have a mirror and light in the sun visor. And this is actually a unique sun visor that has a 2-part extension, so you can have it here on the side as well as in the front.
And that right there is the sound of pure V8 muscle right there. So the Heritage Edition, it does come with the same engine as the regular Land Cruiser. So that's still going to be your 5.7 liter V8 with 381 horsepower, 401 pound-feet of torque. definitely feels pretty strong. I mean, of course, this is a really large SUV, so even with those numbers, it's not like gonna like throw you back in your seat, but it feels definitely adequate given the size that this is.
Yeah, and just the noise of it. You know, this is the same engine that's used in the Tundra, and you know, we say it again and again in these reviews. It's very, you know, refreshing to have just that pure raw V8 engine noise, and I think that's a lot of what you guys are going to be looking for, especially if you buy in this Heritage Edition. You're looking for that more traditional experience, and this 5.7 liter V8 will totally give you that.
Yeah, it brought itself right up this hill quite swiftly. Now the other thing to talk about is going to be the 8-speed automatic transmission. You know, even though this is of course an off-road SUV, it is also a luxury SUV, so you want a smooth and comfortable experience, and I think that the you know, transmission really helps with that. It's very smooth, very comfortable. You can't really feel when it shifts.
Yeah, Toyota does a good job with its 8-speed, and as we get up to speed here, you know, like Drew said, this is a luxury SUV. It's a $90,000 SUV, so it can't just be capable. It needs to also have that luxury experience, and definitely Toyota does provide that here. This is an off-road tuned vehicle, so it does have really, you know, shocks that absorb a lot of things, so when you hit a bump, you really can't feel it in this. And as far as the noise level entering into the cabin, we'll go ahead and get a reading for that. We're heading around 40 miles an hour, and you know, we had a few people pull out in front of us and all that, so that might have messed that up a little bit, but we're looking at around 55 decibels, which, you know, is about what I thought. You know, this is not like the quietest luxury SUV that you can buy, but it also is definitely a very quiet SUV.
Now while we wait on this truck, I will talk about one of the things that is interesting about driving the Land Cruiser, and quite a bit different than a lot of other SUVs that you could cross-shop this with, or really just in general, and that is our kind of nosedive when we brake, as well as lift when you accelerate hard. Like Mason was talking about, you know, having a superb ride and having all that capability when you're off-road, all the articulation, that does mean you're going to have quite soft shocks. Yeah. So the way that this is set up, like I said, you do have that kind of nosedive, so the truck kind of rocks when you brake and accelerate, and of course you have plenty of body roll when you go around corners and stuff. I'm sure everyone pretty much expects that. You know, that's what you have to trade off to have this amount of capability.
And that is today's airball, because, you know, for the average consumer owning a Land Cruiser, they're not going to be taking it off-road a lot of the time. So it is a little bit of a downgrade in terms of like a luxury SUV's normal ride quality to kind of have that boaty rocking sensation. But, you know, the airball and the slam dunk kind of go hand in hand today, because the slam dunk is, of course, this vehicle's capability. You know, this is hands down like the most capable vehicle on the road today. So if you need that capability, it is always going to be there, regardless of if it's a foot of snow or whatever it may be. You're certainly going to have that capability with this Land Cruiser, and that's one of the best luxuries of all.
Right, and bulletproof capability.
Now with that capability, of course, you are going to have a standard full-time four-wheel drive with this Land Cruiser, and it is a special setup, of course, as you would expect. So it normally will split power 60% in the rear and 40% in the front. However, it can also distribute power to the individual wheels as needed in off-road situations. then finally, the last thing that we need to talk about is going to be your fuel economy, and that's going to be a little bit down from last year. So I'm not sure, it doesn't have a different engine or anything. I guess it's just the different EPA ratings. Yeah. So it's down to 13 city, 17 highway, 14 combined. So definitely not great fuel economy, but you do not buy this vehicle for fuel economy.
So in this Land Cruiser Heritage Edition, it definitely does its ancestors proud. I think this is a truck that has not lost its edge over the years. It's always been known for that ultimate capability, and that does continue here in the Heritage Edition. That's not to say that there aren't plenty of modern touches, because from behind the wheel, for the most part, and the overall experience, you have lots of luxury, just like any luxury SUV. So I think it's, the Heritage Edition here really does a fantastic job of blending the excellent capability as well as the modern touches.
Alrighty, so you've heard about all the awesome capability of this Land Cruiser, but here's the bad part. It's going to set you back a pretty penny. So for the very base model, that's going to start at $85,415, and if you want to go for the Heritage Edition, that's going to be $87,745. Now, as far as how this one is equipped, we actually have nothing added on, so just a destination charge of $1,325. And that brings this total to $89,070, which is that's a lot of money, almost 90 grand for a Toyota. However, I mean, honestly, you can basically get, no more legendary than this Land Cruiser. It is hands down like one of the most capable vehicles money can buy, and if you look at stuff like the G-Wagon, that is going to be quite a bit more expensive than this. Well guys, we hope you enjoyed watching this in-depth look at the 2020 Toyota Land Cruiser Heritage Edition. We really appreciate you watching, and if you made it this far in the video, hopefully that means you enjoyed just a tad, so be sure to help us out by hitting that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.